response to Bill 2. I want to start by saying a big thank you to Ironworkers Local 720 for hosting us in their beautiful hall. My name is Corey Longo, my pronouns are she, her, and I'm the Secretary-Treasurer of the Alberta Federation of Labour. Today we are joined on stage by leaders of the Common Front, both the Solidarity Pact and also the Common Front Core, as well as leaders from the Alberta Federation of Labour Executive Committee. Today we will have two speakers, and then we will open it up to media for questions. Our first speaker, please join me in welcoming the President of the Alberta Federation of Labour, Gil McGowan.
Danielle Smith has awakened a sleeping giant. When she took the unprecedented step of using the notwithstanding clause to strip Alberta teachers of their democratic and constitutional rights, she galvanized unions in this province and indeed across the country like never before. She has given us clarity. She has provided us with a rallying cry. She has now, and we now have one common purpose, and that purpose is to topple this government. Not just for the sake of the teachers, not just for the sake of bargaining rights, but for the sake of our shared democracy and the future of our province. Today, as a labor movement, we are committing to work with any and all of our fellow Albertans who agree with us that our rights, our democracy, and our Canadian way of life will not be safe until we make Danielle Smith a radio host again. We are also committing to do everything we can to throw sand in the gears of this government to stop them from implementing what is clearly a MAGA-style agenda. An agenda that Albertans did not vote for. This agenda includes starving public schools while shoveling public money at private schools. It includes fragmenting and understaffing our healthcare system to pave the way for privatization. It includes putting the retirement security of Albertans at risk by pulling our province out of the Canada Pension Plan. It includes deepening our economic integration with Donald Trump's America at the same time he's threatening to turn us into the 51st state. That agenda also includes jumping into bed with separatists who have literally solicited money from the MAGA movement. It includes making a mockery of our Constitution by attacking fundamental democratic rights like the freedom of association and the freedom of expression. And it also includes the agenda of suppressing wages in Alberta, even as workers struggle with an unprecedented affordability crisis. Now, the Smith government is using its legislative majority to steamroll over the opposition. They're using the notwithstanding clause to sidestep the Constitution and the courts. That leaves citizens and civil society as the final bulwark against Danielle Smith's dangerous agenda for our province. No one is coming to our rescue. It is up to us. And to quote poet June Jordan, we are the ones who we've been waiting for. In this fight, unions have a special responsibility. We are one of the only institutions in Canadian civil society with the resources, the people, and the organization necessary to stand up to political bullies. So today, I'm committing on behalf of the Alberta Labour Movement that we will embrace that responsibility. We will use all of the tools at our disposal to make Daniel Smith and the UCP pay a price for attacking teachers, public education, and our democratic rights. We will mobilize around recall campaigns. If they won't shrink the size of our classrooms, we will shrink the size of their caucus. We will mobilize around initiative campaigns. If they continue underfunding public schools, we'll campaign to defund private schools. And yes, the words you've been waiting for, we will begin the process of organizing towards a potential general strike in Alberta. To play on the words of wartime Prime Minister Mackenzie King, not necessarily a general strike, but a general strike if necessary. To give you a sense of the mood of workers in this province right now, I'd like to turn your attention to our province's largest private sector union, the United Food and Commercial Workers Local 401. Yesterday, UFCW 401 did a survey of their 30,000 members who work in grocery stores, warehouses, and meatpacking plants across the province, and this is what they found. 90% of those members said they support the teachers unequivocally. 78% of those members said that they would support a general strike. And 69% of those members said they'd be willing to personally go on strike and participate in a general strike. So that is the sentiment that I'm hearing from union leaders, union activists, and individual workers across this province. Alberta workers are fed up. They're fed up with wages that haven't kept up with inflation. They're fed up with empty rhetoric from politicians who promise action on the affordability crisis but offer no real action. They're fed up with a system that is clearly and increasingly rigged against them. And now they're fed up with a government that is using its legislative power to silence workers and stop them from standing up for themselves. Because that's what's happening with this government. It's what they are really doing with their back-to-work legislation and the use of the notwithstanding clause. They are using the heavy hand of the state to stop workers from banding together and standing up for themselves. The teachers didn't walk out on their students. They stood up for their students. And what we're saying today is that workers should have the power to stand up for themselves, for each other, and the things that they believe in. This government wants to take that power, our fundamental power, the power of collective action. They want to take that power away from us. And we're here today to say they are not going to get away with that, and we are going to find ways to take our power back. So that's why this is such a unifying fight for us. It's why the possibility of a general strike is now firmly on the table. We are not going to pull the pin today, so you can relax, but we are going to start the journey. There are 24 unions affiliated with the Alberta Federation of Labour. representing 175 working people in this province, 175,000 working people in this province. Our federation is also part of a bigger coalition of unions called the Common Front. And together with them, we represent more than 350,000 working Albertans. All of those unions are signatories to what we call the Solidarity Pact, in which we commit to support each other in the event of an attack from governments or employers. We are going to make the Solidarity Pact mean something. Over the coming weeks and months, every one of the Common Front unions will begin the process of talking to their members about our new priority, which is to protect our rights and our democracy by toppling this government. Every one of those unions will begin the process of engaging its members around things like recall and initiative campaigns. And yes, every one of those unions will begin the process of talking to their members about the possibility of a general strike. In the labor movement, we've all been inspired by an activist and author named Jane McAlevey, who sadly died of cancer last year. But when it comes to organizing, especially when it comes to organizing major actions like a general strike, she famously said, "There are no shortcuts." There are no shortcuts to a general strike in Alberta, but as of today, we are on the path to that destination. So not necessarily a general strike, but a general strike if necessary. But if and when it comes, I want to make it clear that it will not be an angry mob like we saw with the convoy who occupied Ottawa, MAGA-inspired, MAGA-funded. It won't look like that. Instead, it will be a joyous celebration of worker energy, worker solidarity, and worker power. Now, I'm just going to conclude. I want to conclude this afternoon with 3 comments and 2 pleas. First, it's important for us to recognize that Danielle Smith is a bully. And like other bullies, she counts on the targets of her bullying to be fearful, to feel helpless, to feel powerless and hopeless. And to be honest, many of us felt that way yesterday after she used the heavy sledgehammer of the notwithstanding clause to send 51,000 of our brothers and sisters back to work against their will. Many of us felt hopeless. But at this moment, I just want to tell people that there is no reason for us to be afraid. Because the truth is, through her actions, Danielle Smith has shown that she is the one who is afraid. She went after our ability to work together, to take collective action, because she knows that that power of worker collective action is bigger and more powerful than any power that has been conferred to her as the premier of this province. She is the one who should be afraid. None of us should be afraid because we have each other. Second, Danielle Smith is a bully. And like other bullies, she counts on the illusion of power and strength. But I want to remind everyone in this room that Danielle Smith is not strong. Danielle Smith is not powerful. In fact, she is weak and her power is weakening. We see it in the polls. In response to the teachers' strike, her support is falling in unprecedented ways. We even see it in her own caucus. There is no provincial government in this province where the premier has been forced to make so many members of her caucus cabinet ministers. Why has she done that? Because she's afraid of her own caucus, and she's buying them off. And she's also weak because she's propped up by a tiny base, which is a tiny fraction of our population, including separatists and MAGA supporters. They're small in the population, they're big in her party, and she's not catering to the majority of Albertans. She's catering to that tiny base. She is weak. She is not strong. Third, I just want to highlight the one word that we all need to keep in our minds at this time, and that word is hope. Hope has been on display for us even over the past 24 hours. We saw the hope that will carry us forward embodied in the students who pledged to walk out of school tomorrow when teachers are forced back to work. And that student protest is going to happen across the province. That is an indication of the hope that will carry us forward. In addition, think about the crowds that gathered to support the teachers in front of the legislature last week, near the end of their strike, and then 3 weeks ago at the beginning. Record numbers of teachers, parents, students, and supporters gathered, not just in their thousands, but in their tens of thousands to support the teachers. That gives us hope. And then, and I just want to stress this point. Yesterday, while on the same day that the government was ordering 51,000 teachers back to work, there was another group of Albertans who, after more than 2 months of unprecedented citizen mobilization, tabled 450,000 signatures to tell Daniel Smith, don't you dare try to turn us into the 51st state. That's 550,000 of our fellow Albertans. So keep this in mind as we enter the fight that we're entering into right now. We will not enter that fight alone. The UCP may have a majority in the legislature, but they do not represent a majority in this province. Those are our friends, those are our allies, and so as we prepare to participate in things like recall campaigns, initiative campaigns, and begin those discussions to build an unprecedented general strike in this province, remember, we are not alone. We have allies, we have friends, and we will win. Now, in the labor movement, it's all about organizing. It's about organizing workers into unions. It's about organizing members in our bargaining units, about organizing to support our work at the bargaining table, and also on the political agenda, on the political stage. So I'm going to end today with two important organizing pleas. None of this is going to be possible without our real strength, which is our members and other working people in this province. So I'm going to ask on behalf of the Federation and of Labour on the Common Front for everyone watching to do two things. First, we recognize that letters and petitions are not enough. This is a time for real resistance, and we are building a resistance. So if you want to be part of that resistance, and we would argue that you need to be part of that resistance, then we need your name and we need your contact information. So if you haven't already done so, please pick up your phone and text the word resist to 55255. That's the word resist to 55255. When you get there, we want you to follow a link to join what we call the Ready to Resist list. In the past 4 days, nearly 30,000 people have joined the Ready to Resist list. In the coming days, probably within one day or two, everyone who signs up to the Ready Resist list will get a survey. And one of the questions will be, are you prepared to support and or participate in a general strike? Okay? So please, 555-255, text the word resist, join the Ready to Resist list, and be prepared to support that, to participate in the survey about the general strike. Finally, when it comes to changing the world, or at least our small corner of it, it's not enough to say what you're against. It's also important to say what you're for. And so, as I said, if and when we have a general strike, it won't be just a general strike against this government and their agenda. It will be a general strike in support of something else. And that something else is what we're calling the worker agenda. This is something that has been developed from the floor of our convention by our members, and we're going to send the message that if political parties want the support of working people, they have to earn it. And so next week, on behalf of the Federation of Labour, Corey and I are going to be unveiling the worker agenda, and the worker agenda will have our ideas, and I would even say our demands, on things like wages, affordability, jobs in the economy, public services, and democratic rights. And that's going to be part of our political protests that could build to a general strike. So we won't just be striking against something, we will striking and protesting in celebration and support of an agenda that is actually a worker agenda. Imagine if we could have not a MAGA agenda, not a UCP agenda, but a worker agenda for this province. That's the kind of thing that will guarantee our future and guarantee our democratic rights, and it starts here today. So thanks very much. Stay tuned.
Thank you so much, Gil. It's my pleasure to welcome the next speaker. She is the president of the Canadian Labour Congress, Bea Brusk.
Good afternoon. What we are seeing in Alberta today is nothing short of an assault on working people and an assault on democracy itself. The UCP government has literally taken a sledgehammer to the charter rights of Albertan workers, the very freedoms that protect every single Canadian worker to stand up, to speak out, and to organize for a better life. At a moment in Canada when we should be working together to protect our jobs, to strengthen our public services, and to rebuild our economy, this government has chosen silence to the very people that keep Alberta running. Teachers, nurses, construction workers, and frontline public servants are all being told, sit down and shut up. And to make matters worse, instead of actually staying and defending her own bill, the one that shreds Albertans' freedoms, this premier packed her bags and took off on an international tour. Could not even face the workers of this province. And that says absolutely everything about this government's priorities. They're prepared to spend public money to fly abroad, all while attacking the very people who teach our children and care for our loved ones and build our communities here at home. So let's be clear, this is not just an attack on teachers. It's an attack on every single worker in Alberta and a worker right across the country. Because in the labour movement, we know that when one provincial government gets away with trumping the rights and freedoms, every single worker in Canada is at risk. Canada's unions will not stand by while this government tries to silence us. We have fought far too long and too hard for the very rights that built this country. The right to organize, the right to free and fair collective bargaining, and the right to speak with one voice. Our labour movement 100% supports Alberta's teachers and every single worker in this province and every community that refuses to be bullied into silence. Last night, Canada's labour leaders got together on an emergency call to discuss this particular issue. And we unanimously determined that the labour movement across Canada is going to fight this attack in the courts, in the streets, on the airwaves, and in every single workplace in Canada. This is a provocation that will not go unanswered, because in the labour movement we know that an injury to one is an injury to all. Danielle Smith will not get away with attacking the hard-won freedoms to associate, the freedom to fair and free collective bargaining, and the freedoms of Albertans to actually organize to speak with one voice. Thank you.
Thank you, B. Okay, and now we'll take some questions for B or Gil.
Hi, Gil. Sean Amato with City News. Why is there no general strike today? What do you say to workers who are pissed off, who think you're not going far enough, and who think workers should be walking out today?
Yeah. When it comes to organizing, everyone who's been involved in an organizing effort understands that organizing takes time. And so as a labor movement that we've decided to start the conversation so that when we get to the point that we might consider a general strike, and as I said, it's not necessarily a general strike, but a general strike if necessary. But we can't make that decision until we have gone back to our unions and allowed the unions behind us to have that conversation with their members and engage, educate, and mobilize them. And that takes time, to be honest.
So what does that timeline look like? How long could it potentially take for you to organize that general strike and for workers to hit the streets?
Well, it's been more than 100 years since we've had a general strike on the prairie provinces. There was a short general strike in BC in the 80s. But here in Alberta, to the best of my knowledge, there has never been a provincial-wide general strike before. So if we're going to do this, we're going to do it up big. And that means time for democratic discussions with our organizations. It means time for organizing. And frankly, it also means that we need time for reaching out to allies and reaching out to workers who are not in unions. Because there are risks, and we saw with the teachers that this is a government that is willing to impose, to use the heavy hand of government to strip workers of the ability to come together and exercise their collective power. So if we're going to do this, it needs to be so big and so widely popular that we are all defended by the size of the movement. And you know, and I won't put too fine of a point on this, but they can't arrest 250,000 workers. They can't arrest 350,000 workers. They can't arrest 450,000 workers. There isn't room in our jails. There isn't resources within our legal system to process arrests and fines. We have to build to the point where it's so big that we protect ourselves by standing with each other. And that takes time. So we're not going to pull the pin right now. As I said, we are putting ourselves on the path, not just to a general strike, but to an unstoppable general strike.
Hi, Gail. Lisa Johnson with the Canadian Press. So what I'm hearing is there is no if necessary. There's no other step that the government, you're waiting for the government to take, for you to take action and have a general strike. So I'm wondering why did you set up these expectations? There's a lot of disappointed people watching this right now who are expecting you to announce a general strike. Why did you set up these expectations that today you were going to announce a general strike?
I am announcing that we're on the path to a general strike. And I'm a little bit at a loss why you think that this would be a disappointment, because we're trying to organize something that hasn't been organized in this province since the inception of this province. We're trying to organize something that will be so big and so effective that it will be unstoppable. But in order to do that, we have to respect the internal democracy of all of our unions. We have to show respect to our individual members by engaging them in conversation. And, we make a living on organizing. That's what we do. We organize workers into unions. We organize members around collective bargaining. We organize campaigns on the political priorities of our members. And because we organize for a living, we're realistic about what's necessary. So we make no apologies for saying that we're starting a campaign to organize a resistance. And that resistance will be felt on multiple fronts, and we will take advantage of all the tools that are available to us. So, for example, we will take advantage of the options for recall campaigns, initiative campaigns, and yes, we have made a commitment as a labor movement to start conversations with our members, with the public, with potential allies, with non-union workers about the possibility for a general strike in this province, which would be unprecedented. And to tell you the truth, also as an organizer, I will say that the process of preparing for something big like a general strike in some ways is even more important than the general strike itself, because it provides a platform and a forum for us to have conversations with working people about their concerns, about affordability, about wage stagnation, about the loss of important rights like the democratic right to association, collective action. Those things are all at risk right now. And so it's important for us not just to have a day of protest, even if that protest is big and shuts down the province. In some ways, what's even more important for us is to have the conversations about the need for that protest.
And so I take your point right now, essentially you need to do some more organizing, you need to coalesce before you can call a general strike. If there is no general strike that is called, and forgive me for being the devil's advocate here, but if there is no general strike in this province in response to the notwithstanding clause, should Albertans, should your political opponents assume that this labor movement in Alberta is too fragmented to do one?
Does this look like a fragmented labor movement? Like this, these are, what you see behind me is just a fraction of the leadership of this province. Okay, so we've built something new in this province. We already had an umbrella under the Alberta Federation of Labour that included representation for most unions in this province, but in the last year and a half, we've built something even bigger, which we call the Common Front. So this is unprecedented, like the size and the coordination and the cooperation between unions is unprecedented. And what we're announcing today is that the Common Front, which had been created to support each other at the bargaining table, is now making a commitment to support each other in transforming the conversations in this province. And that transformation may culminate in a general strike, but I want to stress that if and when it does, that general strike, that unprecedented political protest, won't just be an angry mob shaking their fists at the sky. That will be a joyful political protest that comes after thousands and thousands of working Albertans have found their power and had meaningful conversations about what workers need to make this a better province in terms of wages and affordability and public services. Because together, through those conversations, and once again I'll stress, the process of preparing for the general strike in many ways will be more transformative and more politically powerful than whatever 1 day or 2 days of action comes at the end of it. So this is a commitment not just to have protest. This is a commitment to have the living democracy that's necessary to show that there's a different and better way for our province. That's what we're committing to right now. We're going to turn the resources of the labor movement to starting those conversations that will build a movement for change that will sweep the MAGA-inspired UCP government from this province once and for all.
Manuel Prestovet, Radio-Canada. In 2022, the Ontario government passed a Back-to-School Act using the notwithstanding clause. Reminds you of anything? And at that time, Ontario unions organized an almost immediate walkout, which in part contributed to Doug Ford rescinding his legislation. Now you're telling us that maybe down the road we're going to do that, maybe, who knows. Why not do what they did? Because they got good results. They got the results that you're wanting.
So I was there when Doug Ford tried the exact same thing and as part of the union response. This was before a strike even happened in that province. A strike was about to happen, and there was an unprecedented response from the Ontario labor movement and the labor movement across Canada to stand up and push back. This is no different in terms of what we are doing here. We literally had every labor leader in Canada on an emergency call last night, all of them pledging to take a variety of actions, to give a significant amount of resources, to do a variety of things to push back. So you've only seen the start of this pushback. This is not the end. This is the beginning.
You were talking about, do you want to answer or no? Okay. Yeah. You were talking about resources and pooling resources across the country. Are you considering something like, I know that 88 didn't have a strike fund, but do you want to have a fund to pay the fines of teachers and $500,000 to the ATA a day if people decide to not go back to work?
Listen, the ATA makes its decision democratically because we in the labor movement believe in democracy. So let's start there. We believe in democracy and actually putting these things for a vote. We are always going to stand up for other union workers and, in fact, for all workers, right? So whatever the decision is that they are making, we are going to stand beside them. When it